Strap yourselves in. This might be a long video. Now, I'm going to go as in-depth as I possibly can. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos from, just a string of videos I'm doing after the second episode, I talked to my mom for about a good 30-40 minutes. Going down the entire roster, possibly every single possible avenue that we can think of in regards to who put out the hit on Veronica. Oscar was only in the episode for like 2 minutes, but he dropped a major bombshell that potentially, well, not potentially, because I'm making this video right now, led to a new theory. Jim, according to Oscar's source, called off the hit that he originally intended for Veronica. Now that leaves it open-ended to, okay, if Jim did call off the hit, then the man who was inside of her house, why was he there and who put him there? Again, strap yourselves in. I'm going to say, okay, we're only about a minute and 15 seconds in. If I were a betting man and you told me if I had to put all of my money on one character, who would it be? And why do you think that's the one to kill, that was in the house? Up front, I would say if there was anybody who planted the shooter in the house, I would say Melissa. Yes, Melissa. I'll tell you why later on in the video. Mainly because I want to have you listen the whole way through. But after hearing all the other suspects in line, it might kind of persuade you to look at things my way. But we'll try anyway. Okay. So think of it this way. The first thing is, the person who put the shooter in the house has to be someone who has something against Veronica. There's a long list of characters in the show who has a reason to go against her. And I'm sorry if you hear a squeaky noise. I'm sitting in my computer chair this time instead of my closet. So, it's more comfortable for me. So, looking at the suspects, Jeffrey is a no. Because he's just now becoming a badass. He's trying to get Justin to persuade his wife, who's the judge on the case, to have Veronica locked up forever. Because remember, when he was in jail for being arrested for DUI, he said that he'll do everything in his power to make sure she never sees the light of day again. So, with that being said, he's not going to be the one to set up. Plus, he doesn't have much of it. Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of money anyway. Remember, Oscar's source said the shooter was going to be paid $20,000, but never got the money yet. So, Jeffrey, no, it's not him. Remember that David was going to help him out, get a new car, get a place to live. But he's like, no, I got some money saved up. I'm good. I'll let you know if I need help. But for now, I'm good. Jeffrey's a no. Candace is a no. She's too busy doing. She barely has 2 dimes to rub together right now. It's not going to be her because she's ready to put everything up in order to get the money from the bank. And she's about to lose it all. She doesn't read that fine print all the way. So Jeffrey and Candace are no's. Veronica has them exactly where she wants them. So neither one of them said like, damn, I thought the shooter would have got her. No, it's not them. Hannah's a no. She doesn't have the money. Like, seriously. She's mad or pissed that she was sleeping around with her son, but no. Again, another thing, you got to think of it this way. The person who set up the shooter is probably somebody who doesn't really know what they're doing. They're just doing it out of desperation. Not to mention, think of the characters who have 20 grand to just throw away, throw away on the shooter. Jim is, okay, well, let me just say Jim a little later. Catherine's a no. I will say if there's anybody to take down Veronica, it's going to be Catherine because of what she did to set up Toxic and why. Once Catherine, if she ever finds out that the reason why it went off the rails was because he was molested in prison by Toxic, who was placed in the cell by Veronica, watch and see. Catherine's going to be the one to end her. Watch and see. So I don't think it was Catherine because she still doesn't know anything. She's more her anger is fueled towards Jennifer right now if anything happens to her son. So Catherine's put off the list. Wyatt is a no because he doesn't know that Veronica was the one to have him, molested in prison. He was pissed off at Jim and Catherine for not getting him out of jail when he asked, because if Jim would have got Wyatt out of the jail when Catherine said turn around and do it, he wouldn't have got molested. Toxic wouldn't have been put in the cell in time for him to get molested. So why it's a no. Not to mention, even when he got his inheritance money, he was too busy spending on condos, cars, and drugs. So no, it wasn't him. Still going on. And again, we're just going to hit everyone as fast as we can here. And by fast, I mean, just taking our time, just making sure I'm going over all the evidence. Quita is a no, because you would think Quincy would do it, but no, she doesn't know that Veronica was the, nah, it wasn't Quita. Plus, nah, it wasn't her. It wasn't her. She's the one who warned Veronica about the shooter to begin with, because she's like, yo, hey, get me out of here. I'll tell you who the shooter is. So it wasn't her. Now, Landon is a no too. It was a no because he admires Veronica. He hates her, but he even said, I hate her, but I like her too, because she could just squirm out of anything. That is an interesting piece of dialogue, because she squirmed out of being shot, but I don't think it's Landon. Benny is a no, just no. He's just like done with Veronica, because in the preview for next week we see that it looks like Veronica's at his house. At least that's what it appears to be. And Benny's just not having it, so it's not him either. And here's where we get to the part where it's kind of confusing, okay? My mom was saying maybe Maggie was the one to set up the shooter for Veronica. I told her that makes sense, but in a way it doesn't either, because if Maggie was the one to set up the shooter, it would be like the coyote being hit by his own booby trap for the Roadrunner. I will say that, hey, what if Maggie set up the hitman to be there after Jim's campaign speech, where he was supposed to announce he wasn't running, then David steps up and announces that he's running, and then Veronica goes home and gets shot, making Maggie the breadwinner. Hey, that could have been the case, but maybe after the whole Veronica being in jail thing, that's when she thought the hitman wasn't there anymore. That's why when she went to the house, that's why she got shot. I think there's too many holes in that theory, so Maggie is a no. David is a no. It wasn't David. It wasn't David. It wasn't David. Now, here's when we get down to the last three. Melissa, I'm going to talk to her. I wish I could talk to her because she's awesome. Well, sorry about that. I didn't mean to throw that out there. Melissa, because, that's an awesome theory. Jim, I feel like if there's the most interesting person in this is Oscar. My mom did bring up a good point. How do we know he's not a double agent? How do we know he's not working for Jim? How do we know that he didn't say to David what Jim wanted him to say to David? But at the same time, okay, how did Jim call off the hit if he's been in jail the whole time? Because when he called Mama Rose, who David called later on to confirm that a hit was placed on Veronica, but she couldn't say. It's like kind of honor among thieves. She couldn't say that it was Jim, but there is a hit on Veronica. Man, and again, it's kind of like a topsy-turvy kind of theory right here, because my mom said, what if Oscar's working for Jim and told David what he wanted to hear to get Jim's name in the clear, because the way Oscar's like, it's not Jim Cryer. It's too sloppy to get somebody from the hood who doesn't really know what they're doing to be in the house for that entire weekend and then shoot the wrong person. He shot Maggie multiple times. After the first shot, you would have been like, oh snap, this is Veronica Harrington. And the fact that he ran out the front door instead of trying to go out the back door made no sense to me whatsoever at all. And then he got killed off pretty quickly. So the Jim and Oscar theories can kind of intertwine, because maybe Jim really did, because the hitman was in the house at the same time Professor Cannon, Toxic, and then Terrell got killed. So the way it was written, it seems like, okay, that guy was set up by Jim or the Malones to kill off Veronica. But perhaps Jim did put out the hit at the end of the episode where he's like, I need a bloodbath. But then eventually he called it off. It can go either way. Just like Wyatt being dead or alive, I feel that this can go either way. But let's say it wasn't Jim. Then I think Melissa might have been the one to do it. Here's why I say Melissa. It has to be somebody who has some sort of disdain or doesn't like Veronica. her father's life is in Veronica's icy grip right now. If she doesn't do everything that Veronica says, being impregnated by her gay son, marrying Jeffrey, and then having a grandchild for Veronica, she's going to like take away the money or for the medicine for her dad. Not to mention that all the businesses that the family owns is in Veronica's possession. So if Melissa doesn't do what she wants, she's going to take it all away. Kind of harks back to Candace, because if she doesn't pay that money back within 2 weeks of signing that contract, Jim's or the bank is going to take her house, Benny's house, to tow company, and she won't have the medicine for her son Quincy Jr. Just throwing that out there. You might be thinking Melissa isn't like that. Remember in that episode where she took the pregnancy test, which I'm still suspect about, because Jeffrey was like, should it take this long? And then Candace like, no, it shouldn't. I mean, we don't know if she really is pregnant by Jeffrey. Just saying. And the way she just flipped off, saying bitch and whatnot, and showing that she does have a dark side, so to speak. I don't know. I mean, it does look like she's a bit fed up, because remember when Jeffrey went back to his apartment and found out that Melissa got the apartment from Veronica, I don't know. Maybe Melissa caught up on the news about the Harringtons and the Criers being arrested. Not to mention the story in the newspaper with Veronica and Benny on the front page. And she'll be like, whoa, is this the woman I'm working for? Is this going to be my future mother-in-law? I'm not having this. And then she set up the hitman, not knowing what she was doing. And then he gets shot, and then plan fails. And if Veronica was out of the picture, I'm pretty sure it might have been easier for her to like get her hands on what she needed in order to save her dad, save her businesses, because David had nothing to do with that. That was all Veronica. The little girl might have a little bit of a dark side in her. You never know. I feel like, and again, if I were a betting man, I would put my money on Melissa's side of the table, that she's the one to set up the hitman. If it wasn't Jim, and if Oscar was really telling the truth, I wonder what kind of source he really does have. So until we get more information, I think that Melissa was the one to put out the hit on Veronica after Jim originally called his off. So that's where I'm leaving it for right now. So this video isn't as long as I thought it would be. I thought it would be about 20 minutes, but I'm kind of impressed that I hit all my main points as quickly as I did. So what do you think in the comment section below? Do you think that Jim really did have the hit but didn't cancel it, and Oscar just said something to say something because he's working for Jim? Was Oscar telling the truth, and there was indeed somebody else who put out a hit on Veronica, but Maggie got killed instead? Because remember, Quita's side of the tracks, everybody in the hood knew about the person planted at the house. And then when they saw Veronica get arrested and Jim get arrested, it's like, damn, he's not going to get the money, but he's going to stay at that house until she gets home, because, hey, it's Friday. They might get out after the weekend. And then if they knew their target was a black woman, why would they shoot a white woman, Maggie, multiple times? Doesn't make sense. Remember that Veronica did unlock the door and the shooter was planted, so it makes sense that his reflex would be to shoot the next person to come through the door, because Veronica unlocked the door, yelled, "Hi, officer." So to the shooter, that was Veronica's voice and hand unlocking the door, and the next person to open it would have been her. But at the same time, to shoot Maggie multiple times like that when you clearly saw as a white woman doesn't make sense. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you all next time.